Greetings, YouTubers out there in YouTube land. I just wanted to cordially invite anyone listening to this to come join the Facebook group Rational Science. I'll put a link to it below because I want this consortium, if you will, to grow as much as possible. And the only way to do that is to bring new minds in, to bring outsiders in, and to have them challenge us, and for them to be challenged. So if you're somebody who believes that truth has anything to do with science or the scientific method, or that truth belongs anywhere else other than exclusively to religion, or if you're somebody who believes in quantum physics or relativity or Big Bang theory or any other irrational nonsense, then please, I invite you to come challenge us. Or you don't have to challenge, you can just discuss, or you can do whatever you'd like. You can be as uncivil or civil as you'd like. We don't care. We just want to argue, and we will argue you endlessly. The only thing is you will be challenged to give definitions, and your thinking will be utterly challenged. So be prepared for that. What else? Yeah, I was kind of prompted to make this after watching Thunderfoot's most recent video, and it just really dawns on me how 99.9% of atheists are just as irrational as theists. If you try to point this out, you generally get the same response. You're derided as a troll, and we're just not going to listen to you. We're just not going to respond to your arguments or criticisms. You're just a jerk and a troll. And so you just get marginalized. And it reminds me of the old quote that is brought up time and time again, which is, what is it? Supposedly Gandhi said it. First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, then you win. It reminds me of that because rational science is able to be marginalized right now because it's so small and has so few proponents that it could just be ignored. Well, I want it to grow so it can't be ignored anymore. So that these arguments and considerations can no longer be ignored. Now, the reason that I say atheists tend to be just as irrational as theists is because most atheists, as far as I can tell, believe in the things that I previously mentioned. Big Bang theory, quantum physics, relativity. And the reason that they are just as irrational as their theist counterparts, well, it's very telling that their reason for lacking a belief in God is that they say, well, because there is no evidence for God. And this really gets to the heart of the issue. My reason for lacking a belief in God is because the notion of God is irrational. It's irrational because it cannot be visualized. Nobody, no theist can tell us what it means for God to exist. They can't. Now, what they usually say is God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good. But those aren't things which exist, are they? Are those entities which exist? No, those are abilities. It's an ability to be all-powerful, an ability to be all-knowing, an ability to be all-good. So the question asked was not what abilities does God have? The question is, what is it that possesses these abilities? And when you press theists in this direction, the response you usually get eventually is that, well, God is beyond imagination. He is so awesome and crazy and out there that he can't even be imagined. And that's exactly the response I'm looking for, because if God can't be imagined, then no explanation involving God can be imagined, and we learn nothing. That's irrational. That's what irrationality is. It's that which can't be visualized or imagined. So this exact same criticism, well, to continue on with that idea for a minute, so the reason that God fails then is not because of a lack of evidence. The only way to interpret evidence is to tell us first what exists. You have to assume the objects of the theory before you can even interpret the evidence. Right? You have to say what it is that exists and how it behaves, and then that then is how you explain the evidence. The evidence being the observations, the experiments, the measurements, and what have you, the equations. That is the evidence. That is what needs to be explained. Yes, good for you. We can find patterns. We can draw out an equation which can predict quantities, physical quantities. The question is, why? Why do these patterns prevail? Why? What is it that physically exists, and how does it behave such that we see these patterns over and over again? Why are objects attracted to the earth? Why do magnets repel or attract one another? So God fails before evidence is even brought into the picture. If you can't say what it means for God to exist, then you have nothing with which to interpret the evidence. So, likewise, it's the same reason why quantum physics and relativity and Big Bang Theory and all these fail. It's the exact same reason, which is why this is so ironic. It fails because the objects of the theory cannot be visualized. You cannot visualize warped space, cannot visualize zero-dimensional objects or higher-dimensional objects. So that is a problem. And if they can't be visualized, then no explanation involving them can be understood. And once again, we learn nothing. It's indistinguishable from theism. Indistinguishable. So, if you think I'm full of shit right now, or you're going to come up with the usual responses like, just because you can't imagine it doesn't mean nobody can imagine it. You're just a puny brain moron. But, I mean, it's a simple question. You can either draw me a picture or build me a model of what you're saying exists, or you can't. And with those things, you simply can't. It's not possible. And to argue that physicists have superhuman powers to visualize that which cannot be visualized by the human mind is equivalent to the priest who says only he can understand the Word of God, only he can communicate directly with God, and the peons, the churchgoers, have to simply take what the priest says or the church authority on faith, because they themselves cannot see the Word of God or understand it. They simply have to accept this version of it, this lowly version of it, from the one who has the all-seeing eye, the priest. It's the same principle. Only the authority, the physicist, can visualize that which is not possible to visualize. And we have to just take them on faith, even though we can in no way visualize what they're saying. It's the exact same thing. So, again, if you think I'm full of shit, I'm not going to get butthurt over it. Come challenge me. Insult me. Crush me. I want to be crushed. Come on. Please, come to Rational Science, and let's have some fun. Okay? That's all I got for now. And I hope everything is going well with everyone out there. Apologize for not making videos in so long. I'm extremely busy these days. And, but there are projects in the works, so there you go. That's all I got for now. Peace, everyone.